I see our clerk, I see our attorney, manager, chief. You all ready? All right. I'd like to go ahead and call our final budget hearing. Today is Tuesday, September 22nd, and it is 7:03 p.m. If I can please have a moment of silent meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge States of America and to the republic for indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we could please have roll call.
Councilman Perrella,
Here.
Councilman Urban,
Here.
Councilperson Romaine, Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Here.
Mayor Cabellas.
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you so much. If I could please have the attorney read into record our virtual meeting guidelines before I ask for approval of the agenda, please. Can I ask for, I'm sorry, attorney, can anybody, I can't. Can anybody hear him?
No.
No. Attorney Powell, we can't. Can you all hear him?
No, something's wrong with his audio.
Yeah, it's
Something's
heavily digitized.
Yeah. Norma, something's wrong with your microphone.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Might have been the connection. Sorry about that. So let me start from the beginning. On March 20, titled Conducting Proceedings by Communications Media Technology of the Florida Administrative Code, provides guidance for the procedures to be followed to conduct a proceeding by means of communications media technology or to provide access to a proceeding by use of a CMT. The governor's order does not waive any other requirement under the Florida Constitution and Florida's government in the Sunshine Laws. The village is using Zoom to hold this virtual meeting. The Zoom platform does not require the public to purchase or download any additional software or equipment to watch this meeting. Zoom is a cloud-based platform for video and audio conferencing, collaboration, chat, and webinars across mobile devices, desktops, telephones, and room systems. Public comment will occur as they always do at the council and committee meetings, during good and welfare, and after each agenda item prior to voting. When the mayor opens the meeting for public comment, anyone wishing to participate will have 3 minutes to speak. This is how you'll be recognized to speak in the Zoom application. If you're using a mobile device, just click the raise hand on the button. If you're using your computer, click on the icon participants on the bottom of your screen. You will see the option to raise your hand. There are 2 ways to view the meeting on your screen. The first is gallery view and the second is speaker view. Gallery view allows you to view all or most participants at the same time on your screen. If the speaker view, in speaker view, whoever is speaking will be viewed front and center, while other participants will be in the top in smaller squares. Please make sure to mute microphones when not speaking. If possible, use headphones to mitigate sound feedback. When addressing the Village Council, please first state your name and then your home address. All comments submitted will be included as part of the public record for this virtual meeting and will be considered by the Village Council prior to taking any action. Everyone participating in this virtual meeting is required to maintain decorum. There's no clapping, applauding, heckling, or verbal outbursts in support or opposition to a speaker or his or her remarks. No signs or placards shall be allowed. No person other than the person having the floor shall be permitted to enter into any discussion, either directly or through a member of the council without permission of the mayor. No question shall be asked of a council member except through the mayor. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who shall become boisterous, rowdy, disruptive, or making personal comments while addressing the council shall be barred from further participation in this virtual meeting by the mayor. If at any time during this virtual meeting, the ability of the public to listen or participate is interrupted due to technical problems, the meeting shall be immediately paused during such time and will resume when the technical problem is corrected. The village has provided this procedure to indicate, among other things, neutrality on items and topics to be discussed at this virtual committee meeting. Mayor and council members, are you comfortable with all the notice provisions set forth in these uniform rules of procedure we have established for this virtual meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. May I please have motion to approve the agenda for us for our final budget hearing?
I just have one question, just to be sure that within this agenda, there is room for public comment.
It's a hearing. There must be public comment, so absolutely.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion's been made. Person Urban, is there a second?
Second that motion to approve the agenda, Madam Mayor.
Second made by Nickerson. All in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Here, the motion for tonight's agenda does pass. We have two resolutions, and just to kind of reiterate, excuse me, my apologies, three resolutions, and kind of just to reiterate for those who may be joining us for the first time or who may have been here before, just a reminder. I will always ask the attorney to read the resolution into the record. I will always ask a member of council if there is a first and there is a second, and then I immediately go into discussion. The discussion is for the council, and after every item, it'll always be open for public comment. There'll be no voting until after all public comment has been heard. Okay? So having said that, we're going to go right into the first resolution as Resolution 2020-29. If I may please have the attorney read the resolution into the record.
A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, adopting a millage rate for this fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021, pursuant to Section 200.065 Florida statutes and providing for an effective date.
Set forth. That's Resolution 2020-29. Is there a motion to adopt 2020-29?
I make a motion to adopt what's the number, Madam Mayor?
2020-29. I know there's a lot of 20s there.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2020-29, Madam Mayor.
Is there a second before I move for discussion?
I'll second the motion.
Who was that?
Urban.
Oh, Urban. Second by Councilperson Urban. There's a motion to consider 20, and it is a discussion about adopting the millage rate of 8.3 to the council. Any comments or questions to the CFO or to the administration before I open up for public comments? And if the CFO and the manager wants to give us a recap on this resolution, which is sustaining the millage rate of 8.3 at this time, please do so.
We don't have a comment or a reiteration, Madam Mayor.
Okay, is there a question or comment from the council? Okay, seeing none. I'll close the budget hearing and open up for public comments. Is there a comment from the attendees? Resolution 2020-29, which is to adopt the millage rate of 8.3. Kyle, I see Warner Dreyer's hands raised. If we can please have Warner Dreyer come in so that he may ask a question.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Perfectly, yes, welcome.
Great, thank you. My name is Warner Dreyer, 486 Northeast 87th Street. Just had a quick question on the resolution itself. Do we need to list the actual 8.3? The one that I'm looking at here that was distributed, I didn't see the 8.3. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Is there any other question or comment from the attendees on this resolution? Seeing none, I'm going to public comments and I'm going to open it up back to the council. Can I get confirmation from the administration that 8.3 is in fact listed in the resolution itself? I know the agenda has a title, but in the totality of the resolution, 0.3 delineated. Yes.
It is, Section 2 states the 8.3 millage rate for the next fiscal year.
Yes.
And then I would just add that the Excel worksheet that the council has, column H is where 8.3 is listed for the council. And so it may not be visible to the PDF for the public, but we do have it in our Excel under column H as 8.3.
And also, just for the record, when the clerk sent out on Friday evening, she sent out all the documents as Word, not as PDF, so they should have gotten it if they would just probably move over a little. But that is correct, it is column H. Any other questions or comments from the council to the administration? Seeing none, I'm gonna go once, twice. Madam Clerk, may I please get roll call for resolution 2020-29?
Councilman Perrella,
Yes.
Councilman Urban,
Yes.
Councilwoman Roman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Cabello.
Yes.
The item passes 5-0 on
Thank you.
second reading.
Attorney Powell, can you please have resolution 2020-30 read into the record?
A resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, adopting an operating budget for the fiscal year commencing October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021, pursuant to Florida Statute Section 200.065, Trim Bill, authorizing expenditures of funds established by the budget, authorizing encumbrances, authorizing issuance of checks, providing for grants and gifts, providing for post-audit, providing for adoption of representations, providing for severability, providing for conflict and repealer, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. This is the resolution where we adopt the incoming 2020-21 budget. I'm going to ask for a motion to consider resolution 2020-30 and then a second, and then we'll open up for discussion from the members of the council. And then of course, we'll open up from discussion from members of the public. Having said that, is there a motion for resolution 2020-30?
Make a motion for resolution 2020-30, Madam Mayor.
There's been a motion made by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Councilperson Urban. There is a motion to consider resolution 2020-30, which is to adopt the budget for the fiscal year 2020 through 2021. If I can please now have the manager and CFO come forward to go over any open questions that were left from the first hearing. And then I'm going to open it up for discussion from the council. And then I will close the budget hearing and open it for the public for public comments.
I'll let our CFO address it, but I will say that we did take note from the previous budget hearing and reviewed all of those items and addressed them. So I'll let CFO Wallace get more involved with the details for that.
Thank you. So we did make the changes that the council had wished at the first budget meeting. There was a great deal of discussion regarding the public affairs budget. It was the council's wish to take half of what was budgeted in those line items and apply it to the police department budget for tasers. We also had to add some money to that budget to provide for enough money to buy the tasers as was directed. So both of those things, you will see the public affairs budget reduced. You will see in the police budget, the last line item, the equipment for tasers is in there. There was some title changes for the public works employees. There was some confusion or clarification, I guess, on how the public works budget was distributed between the general fund and the streets and roads funds. That is totally appropriate to do. I think at the end of that discussion, everyone was fine with it, but we did change the title of salaries to reflect the fact that it's for the public works employees. And with that, there really weren't that many other changes. So this is the final adoption. If you have any changes tonight, this would be effective after you make those changes, I guess. You've already adopted the millage rate, so that's good. But that has to be done first under Florida law. So now it's just a matter of the budget that you have and what you want to do with it. But I believe we've made all the changes since then. We've had a few calls to us since the meeting, and we've heard those comments and have made the changes. So I guess we just turn it back over to the elected body to deliberate.
Thank you, Chris. Any comments to the from the council to the administration? Vice Mayor Nickerson, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, before this meeting started, I'm sure we all got the email from one of our residents, Courtney Kurt. Mr. Kurt, I don't know if everybody saw that email. He said he couldn't be here tonight, but he did have a couple of questions really quickly about the budget. One of the questions that he had was, when you look at the administration and finance page, you see where it says the building repairs and maintenance for $10,000. He had a question on how that differentiates from the Village Hall repairs and maintenance from Public Works for $5,000, Madam Manager.
We have varying repairs and maintenance. The Public Works one would be like the gate being repaired or the light fixtures that were, so there are things that fall under Public Works and then the building itself. So we have those two separate funds for that.
So the one for administration and finance would be what type of items?
Would be like the repair of the air conditioning unit, the repair of the windows, the repair of things that come up throughout with the village. Mind you, we had $30,000 budget allocated before, and we passed that last year, but we cut that to $10,000 in an effort to just do a lot of trimming this season, but we still wanted a little cushion in case something comes up.
So it's better, in your opinion, to keep it separate because in your opinion, would it be like the administration and finance is about the Village Hall itself and Public Works is like things outside of the Village Hall? Or
yes, very well could be, and usually is. It's just that we do need to still repair, gates and very different things outside of the Village Hall where there needs to be a repair budget for that.
Okay, thank you. Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. On the Public Works, where it says contingencies would be, Madam Manager, what type of?
Again, the contingencies was a section that our CFO put in there just for cushion in case of just something that should come up. And I don't know if you want to give a little more detail about that, Mr. Wallace. But
Sure.
It says, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, every budget should have amounts for unexpected items, and that's what that represents. It's the difference really between the revenues and the expenditures. And you always have things that come up, number one. Number two, with any sort of luck, you won't have anything that come up. And to the extent that you don't, then you should, if everything else holds according to plan, you should have money left over, which should help reduce your $350,000 fund deficit in the general fund that resulted from Irma. So it's a way of digging yourself out of the hole while also being prepared for any unexpected things that come up during the year. And it's been my experience over time that there's always unexpected things that come up during the year. So that's what that represents. It's just in public works because honestly, it's the last line items of before debt service. It can show up anywhere. I mean, I don't really care where it shows up, but it needs to show up somewhere.
That was my only question and concern, because I don't want people to think it's only for public works.
No, it's not. It's not.
So we could, go ahead, Madam Mayor, I see what you. Madam Mayor, did you want to?
No.
I didn't know if we want to, I think we might want to put that somewhere that's more general, so people don't think it's only for public works.
Well, we can do that if you want. Where would you prefer to put it? I mean, we're not married to where it is, so we can just put it down there with debt service, which isn't really a department, and you'll still see it when you get reports. We can set it off on the side.
Yeah, that would be great if we could do that. Thank you. I appreciate that. My only last thing, just for clarification, Madam Mayor, if I may, on the police page, you guys, where it says repairs and maintenance vehicles. And this is for, Madam Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this because of our status as far as the lease program? Because where it says 15,000 for the budget for the repairs and maintenance vehicles, but yet we spent 21,000. I just want to make sure it's not under budgeted.
Well, repairs is different from lease. We don't have a lease program yet. We're looking into that, but no, this is just for repairs, expected things that are going to come up, and they do until we get out of the situation. But even if we did the lease program, we discussed a phasing in, so there will be repairs that will come with that. So we wanted to have it.
So my question, Madam Manager, was are we under budgeting then? Or no?
Well, possibly if we keep the current fleet we have. But we need to really review how we're going, and my charge for this budget cycle was to find as many savings as possible so that we can have some, some opportunity later for such as the lease program and buying the vehicles for the code enforcement and public works. So it's not under, but I mean, we're budgeting like we did last year so that we can, keep things as lean as possible. But we have to realize that those cars aren't going to get us through another fiscal year.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Manager. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I appreciate it.
Now we have Councilperson Urbam. I wasn't watching the order here, so I see Urbam and Perella's hand raised, so I'm just going to go in order of my participants here. Councilperson Urbam.
Good evening. Okay, if it's all right, I'm just going to kind of start at the top here. So in revenues, I know that we don't have a lot of options. However, I did have one question on alarm permits and fines. It's left as blank through this past fiscal year and nothing allocated for next year. Madam Manager, I was just curious to know, full disclosure, I am behind on my permit sticker right now. I have an outdated sticker on my window. However, I do know that there are many residents who have, up-to-date permits, and so I'm just curious to know if we have any anticipation of revenue from the alarm permits.
Chris?
I'll let our CFO answer.
Yeah, this came up during a couple of workshops. This line item is going to be a new account, as you can see. We weren't able to pull off the detail. We do get some money from alarm permits and fines, but we separated this out so that during fiscal year 21, you'll be able to monitor it. It's currently being occasionally posted to miscellaneous revenues, but there were those on the council that wanted to separate it out so that it could be managed better. So that's the intent there. So as we get those revenues, that's where it's going to get posted. and you'll be able to see it, and we'll be able to forecast it better, because now it's all stirred up in one of, miscellaneous revenues. It's pretty difficult to pull out.
Okay, very good. And then my only other question in revenues is, Mr. CFO, if you would just explain a little bit about police off-duty details, how that works for the revenue, and then conversely in the expenditures.
All right, well, we have them as both the revenue and expenditure, as you noted. They should offset each other pretty much from, every report that we give you. When officers work not in the normal course of their duties, I'll just explain what off-duty detail is in case there's a member from the public, because I think that was part of your question. Police officers in just about every city earn extra money by working off-duty. Businesses or other cities call up the village and ask for someone to work at a business, or for the other city at a business. And those businesses pay a flat rate per hour, with a minimum number of hours usually for that officer's time. And in turn, the businesses or the other cities are billed. And then we also have an expense called off-duty detail expense when the officers are paid every 2 weeks. They're paid a flat rate as well. And those two numbers should wash each other out. If we see that the revenues are less than the expenses, that tells us that we have to follow up on, a business or another city to make sure we're getting reimbursed for that time that we've already paid the officers for.
Okay.
So that's the nature of off-duty detail.
And then a difference in the other direction, I think it was a $700 difference we're looking at. The revenue is $700 more than the expenditure forecasted. Is that a nominal amount that is essentially?
Yeah, we're hoping to do a small administrative fee, which is common.
Okay.
The city has some paperwork issues, but hopefully a little bit more. I mean, ideally, you'd want a little bit more than the expense just to make it worth your while paperwork-wise to do it.
Very good. But if it's a benefit to our officers, then it's also.
Well, yeah, right.
Okay.
They earn extra money for that, and it's
Perfect.
not going to cost the taxpayers anything. So it's a good benefit for them.
Okay. All right. And then moving into expenditures, legislative. I really was thinking critically about the police budget, and I saw what the chief had done with his budget, and it was so very evident that he was making some pretty considerable sacrifices in a couple of line items. I would like to propose that in the legislative expenditure category, I would like to propose that the council considers cutting the discretionary fund in half for next year and moving half of the discretionary fund into the general budget. So it's budgeted for $10,000 as it is every year. I would suggest to the council that we drop that to $1,000 per council person instead of $2,000 just for the next fiscal year. I mean, if we don't look at very real solutions here, I don't think we can just plow ahead as normal. So I would like to propose that we cut that in half to $1,000 per council person. That would save us $5,000. In addition, under memberships, education, and training, which is the next line item, it's budgeted at $1,500. I would like to propose we drop that by $500 down to $1,000. That would give us a total of $6,500 in savings out of the legislative category. So to recap for this category, my recommendation is that we reduce the council's discretionary fund by half to $1,000 per council person, saving $5,000, and then memberships, education, and training for the legislative category reduced from $1,500 down to $1,000, saving an additional $500 with a total of $6,500 in savings out of this category. That's my proposal. I'm open to any comments, but I'm also prepared to move along fairly quickly here. I know we have a lot to do tonight.
If I
Go
could,
ahead, please. Yes.
So on that, you have the total as being 6,500.
Well, if I reduce the discretionary fund by 5,000, oh, forgive me. Yes, 5,500. Forgive me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I was when I was making my notes, I was a little ambitious and considered reducing the education by 1,000, but I think I reconsidered that. Okay, 5,500, forgive me, yes. All right, thank you, Mr. CFO. All right, and then under admin and finance, just a couple of questions. I just want to remind us all that contracted accountant, we have budgeted at 72. In theory, there's an opportunity for some savings there next year. We won't know until we get into it, it sounds like. And then if you could, Mr. Wallace, please just for the benefit of the residents watching, we have the one item for contracted accountant, and then, oh, forgive me, IT contractual services. The next one, 25,000. There we go. The next item right below contracted accountant is IT contractual services. So are we confident that we are going to continue with the same format in terms of the level of IT involvement in committee meetings and things to that effect? Is there an opportunity here for savings in that IT contractual services?
Councilperson Urban,
Yes.
that's for our internal IT. The
Okay.
Full Moon you're talking about is Full Moon.
Is
I
under
think
the
that's
clerk.
Under clerk.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right, continuing. I know I highlighted a couple of things that might be obvious, or I might have already answered myself, but I'm going to.
But I
go
will
through
say
here.
about that item, I did promise to do an RFP for that later once we get.
Yeah, I remember that we had discussed it. Okay, very good. Miscellaneous staff events, where I see we cut that in half, and that was, okay, adequate. All right. I'm down to planning and zoning now. Appraisal fees, Mr. Wallace, if you could please just, I see that there was 17,000 in appraisal fees for the last fiscal year, and we have nothing forecasted for the coming year.
Yeah, my recollection was that was a one-off deal for whatever happened in fiscal year 2019, but it didn't recur this year, and we don't expect it next year.
Okay, very good. All right, and then into the clerk, there we go, video recordings and transcripts. I have that highlighted, and thank you, Madam Manager, you've answered that question. And then the website move for public affairs at 3,500. Had a question in here somewhere about that. Give me half a moment and I will remember it. No, I think we've addressed that at the first budget hearing, and I do believe I'm satisfied with what we discussed. Public affairs. Don't believe I had any notes outside of what we have established and discussed. Only to consider, so in public affairs, as we discussed, dropping the buy-in for the League of Cities dinner down to 1,500, as we discussed, dropping the buy-in for the Miami Shores Gala down to 1,500. I am a little concerned about leaving out, I know National Night Out, because of the dates, may not be happening, and so I know we discussed that. But then also with the role models, are the National Night Out and the role models events both essentially scrubbed for the coming fiscal year?
Well, we don't know. I know the role models is in January, so I think it may be too early to say that that's still going to be happening. I don't know.
I would just like to offer to the council to seriously consider nixing one of the galas to accommodate supporting both the role models and the National Night Out. I would think we would be better serving the community for those, and I don't want to get into a big political discussion tonight, even though we are all politicians, but as far as the benefits from the League of Cities dinner and the benefits from the Miami Shores Gala, I'm more in favor of the Miami Shores Gala because those proceeds go to the scholarship. And it seemed that the benefits to the village for supporting the League of Cities was backseat to the benefits provided to council members, is the way it was presented. So my 2 cents is if we have to choose between one or the other, I would choose Miami Shores Gala over the League of Cities for the next year. And then if it came down to it, I would be in favor of supporting the Miami Shores Gala nominally, maybe not with a table purchase, but so that we could support National Night Out if that occurs, as well as the role models if that occurs. I know that's a lot to throw at you, Mr. Wallace. I don't know if you are able to keep up with notes on my tangents here, but
Well,
all right.
It actually brings up a question on how you want to go. I am taking notes.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
I foresee the only change that you've really, specific change up till now that you really have made was to the discretionary money and the membership education and dues.
Right. And what I'm, yeah. And kind of what I'm talking about now is probably a larger discussion for the council to have in January.
Yeah, and it could be, you do have, I mean, it's not a lot of money, but you guys you don't even know if it's going to happen because of
Right.
COVID-19 was the discussion. But remember, you do have that contingency amount that if you decided because COVID, went away and you were able to have these events, you could reach into that pot to fund them.
Okay.
Or you could take it from another line item. So you have a little cushion, that you should use sparingly, but you do have a cushion.
Very good. All right. I'll move right along quickly here. I'm into the police budget. So, Chief, I might have a couple questions for you if you're available. The off-duty details was answered. Chief, I did have a question if you might speak to it on comp time. I'm just curious to know if you feel that is an adequate amount, the 4,300 projected for comp time for the force.
Yeah, I believe it is at this point. I don't see any problems that we had in the past year per se.
Okay.
If there's other monies eventually moving down the future, I would rather see them earmarked for that. I think the comp time were okay, but thank you for asking.
Okay, you got it. And then this might be for the attorney or perhaps Mr. Wallace, but under professional fees, legal other, we have it budgeted at 20,000. I feel like we need to have a frank discussion about this because I understand that 20,000 is a placeholder, but considering the activity in this line item the past year and the forecast as the council sees it for the coming year, I just think we need to be as deadpan honest and as realistic as possible when we're talking about this budget. And so if somebody could speak to why we chose 20,000 for the professional fees, legal other in the police budget.
Well, I think that was the budgeted amount for the current year. And as you noted, because of lawsuits and the labor negotiations, you really spent a lot more than that. And it's hard to identify when you're going to get some sort of labor action. The police is not just your department, but all police departments are, it's pretty common to see expensive labor actions in that operation. Now, working to your benefit is you don't have a large department, but you still have ongoing labor disputes that you're going to have to address. So you're going to have some expenditure. The longer that goes on, the more money you're going to spend on it. But I think as far as a budget item, that's just mirrors what was appropriated for the current year.
Okay, very good. On that note, I'd like to highlight that for the council to keep that in mind and keep an eye on that as we seek additional revenues for the coming year. All right, Chief, once again, if you could, repairs and maintenance of vehicles. I know 15,000 is a placeholder. I know we have discussed this at length, but if you could just remind the council and the residents how we feel about that 15,000 budgeted for maintenance of vehicles. And Madam Manager, I'm sorry, you can, yeah.
The fleet, well, for lack of a better word, is decrepit. The take-home cars are in good condition. They're taken care of well. They're out of warranty now, but they're taken care of. But the rest of the fleet, 15,000 would almost be optimistic. nonetheless, we fully understand what, the needs and the fiscal issues that are going on. But it was brought up, months ago, and moving forward, it's certainly not to be penny wise and pound foolish. The leasing program is certainly the way to go in the future, because this is just going to be more costly and costly with these vehicles and the issues we're having right now. And I would say right now, certainly not too far into the future, is going to be a time where, tough decisions are going to have to be made, if for no other reason than to save the village money moving forward. 15,000 will get us through. I'd like to say it's going to get us through the whole year with the cars that are constantly having to be repaired. If they're minor repairs, it'll work.
Okay.
If it's a major repair, what's going to happen is it's going to take a large chunk of that money, and or we're going to be down one more car. So that's
All
it
right.
in a nutshell, sir.
Very good. Thank you. And then I'd also just like to remind the council that the fleet of the police, as well as the step plan issues and the PBA, are going to be our two priorities for the coming year. It seems fairly obvious. So, and then the last line item in the police is the taser. So I know residents had questions, so I would just remind them that this is a very important issue, because this gives our officers an additional option. And the more options that the officers have, the better the outcome is going to be for both our officers and the public. So in that, we established that we found about half, it sounds like, of that taser budget in public affairs. And I'm hoping that if my recommendations for the legislative cuts occur, that would be the other half of that taser budget. And then maybe even, I think I had it as like an extra $120 something, $170 or something. So I'm hoping that we can get there from there. And I know I saw, as we get down to public works, there was some a little bit of savings there too. All right. Building, oh, sorry, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I just wanted to point out that we did cobble together, and we met with the chief to make sure it was enough for his taser program, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we've put enough money in there to do his program. Most of it came from the cuts you made for public affairs. The rest we cobbled together from other places. So Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we did put all the money that was based on the quote that he was given for that. So, I don't think you need to find money for that, because I think we already did that for,
Okay. That's wonderful. All right. And thank you for everybody who put in the hours to make that happen. All right, building and code enforcement. I had, okay. So under professional fees, building permits, we're at 47.2 and projected is 70 for this fiscal year. I'm just curious about this fiscal year. Is that still a realistic projection, moving from 47 up to 70?
Well, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, well, I think that for permitting activity, it's hard to forecast. We had COVID-19, but during that period of time, people were pulling pool permits for your size city, which was kind of astounding. So I don't know, a lot of people started doing renovations, I guess, while they were home. I don't know what to tell you about building permits, other than you get a piece of the action, if you will. So when you charge the revenues, when you bill a revenue in the form of a building permit, you're also embedded in that. You're getting a piece of the permit goes to the contractor, and you keep a small portion of it as well. So in theory, it should be revenue neutral.
Okay.
How that's going to plan out has been, I would have thought it would have dropped off during COVID-19, but not just in your city, but elsewhere. Some of the hottest stocks right now are Home Depot and Lowe's, because
Right.
people are just, I guess they're just staying home doing stuff.
All right, very good. And then just a reminder to the council that the both Public Works and code enforcement vehicles also are at top of the priority list and near critical. I know the code enforcement vehicle is critical. I know the Public Works truck is near critical. All right, Public Works. Let's see. I had one question about contractual services and lawn. To date, we have it at just short of 16, projected to 35. If I could have someone speak to what we're looking at with that.
I think it's mostly just a delay in billing. And keep
Okay.
in mind that that number is as of July 31st. So you've got 2 more months of billing in there, really. But we expect,
Okay.
you know, to go back where it was or what was budgeted.
All right, very good. And then similarly, the contractual services general, I see that we're at just short of 21 currently, and we projected 15. We're projecting 15 again next year. If we could just have an idea of, does that have to do with? I'll just take a shot in the dark and say it has to do with the additional cleaning billing for the COVID-related issues within the village. Paul.
Are you talking about for the general engineering line item?
Yeah, contractual services general.
Most of that, what's going into general engineering is paid to Craig Smith and Associates.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. And are we confident in that number of 15 for next year? Right. Or we feel like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, here's my guess with this on engineering. Historically, you've charged, not all of this, but there's been part of this general engineering that's really related to stormwater or to roads and streets. And it's really those invoices should be paid out of those funds and not out of the general engineering and the general fund. So we're hoping that those costs that do arise for streets and roads are paid for out of streets and roads. And those that arise for stormwater, which I think you're going to be having more and more of that, are paid out of the stormwater fund.
okay. All right. And then just as a reminder, custodial services, we're moving that line item, which is why it's down to no projection for next year. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Let's see. I believe that is all I had for Public Works. And then moving along, I don't know that I had too much else for, let's see. Down to expenditures. Let me go over here and see what I hit a column. One moment. All right. Line 257, street and sidewalk repair. If you could just elaborate a little bit on what we're looking at with our current, where that current total of 70,600 is coming from, and then the projected of 32 for next year, just for the benefit of the residents, please.
All right, the 70,600 is basically the difference between what we expect to come in and what we have to spend. You're going to be getting less money from gas taxes, more than likely next fiscal year and this year as well. So we are forecasting, you're using the state's estimate on income for next year. So we begin with that for the next year's budget. Then we've reallocated, as we discussed earlier, part of the public works salaries that deal with streets and roads, their efforts towards maintaining streets and roads in the village. We also moved over the tree trimming along rights of way because that's a road and streets expenditure. And then basically everything that's left over you could use for potholes or just roll back over in the fund balance for bigger projects down the road. But you do have money for streets and road maintenance in this fund. And it's basically the difference between the revenues that you expect to get, less the known expenses that we have. And then basically anything you want to spend on maintenance you can, or it would just stay within that fund for future years.
Okay, very good. I believe that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Okay, Councilperson Pearl, you have your hand up? And I'll go through, I remember the council. Go ahead, Councilperson Pearl.
No, go ahead, Madam Mayor.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Well, yes, Mr. Orbaum actually went over a few questions that I had, so saved me some time over here. But one of the questions that I need to touch on again for the, I don't know, third time, it's about the salary for the public works staff. Because we see it on the line over here. There was something that was never voted on to raise the salary. From my understanding, we had these staff are always at 26,000 for what I see from the previous budget. But now adding the 21 plus the 14,000 from the gas money, it will put it up to 35,000. Is the council okay with it? Is it something that needs to? I was reviewing even Biscayne Park when the public works, they have 3 workers and they actually get paid $32,000 a year. So again, it's not like the village has the worst paying workers. So I need to know from you all if you're okay with that, because I'm not. Obviously, going from 26 to 35, it's a big jump. And also, I know we're gonna go over the legal services, and it wasn't clear to me whether we were gonna keep it at 96,000 and we were gonna go down to 75 like it was said before. So it's kind of like unclear in all those 2 items, and as well as the what Anders was saying about the discretionary funds. I thought we had about $9,000 left for the year, and we're gonna reallocate that for something else. So again, there's any, do I have to make a motion about this? Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Madam Mayor, if I may. Madam Mayor. So I think that, Madam Manager, if you could just kind of explain why, walk us through why, what in the past the Public Works individual would make and why the change now. That's when we start there. Maybe that'll provide some clarity to all of us.
Okay. The change came because the former maintenance worker was part-time, worked 4 hours a day, and did maintenance in some public works, and earned $24,000 annually for that, and was also paid, as a, part-timer. So the present worker is a full-time worker, but he's only making the $24,000 annually. And just to just make up for that and to give a wage that would be, commensurate to the work, we discussed raising the salary, but I had to find a location of, how do we make up for a full-time position, for a lean budget. And this is when we saw that there was an opportunity that the interim CFO presented. So that is why the salary increased, because it's a full-time position now, and he does full-time work.
So just for clarification, before I turn it back over to Councilperson Perrella, for everybody watching, so he was a part-time position, he was a part-time worker, now he's full-time. I think that everybody that goes from part-time to full-time, usually those individuals get paid more money. So I think that's the answer to the first question.
Exactly, it was the part-time salary, but this person has been working full-time for us. This salary was budgeted at part-time. However, when the former worker left, I had to fill the position, and it was a full-time worker. This gentleman worked full-time, but the salary was extremely low. And we discussed, look, when there's an opportunity, I will revisit it. And this is why it is before you now, that I'm, would like this increase for the Stafford for retention purposes and because he does full-time work.
Thank you, Madam Manager, for that. Councilperson Farrell, as far as what you brought up about the attorney fees, or the attorney salary, that just goes to, look, that's up to all of us, right? Like that just goes to I think part of the problem is that the attorney discussion is next meeting. So there's a lot of things that we're not going over right now. But I think where you're coming from, Councilperson Perrella, when you're saying that, does it have to be what it is? Could it be lower? I think falling into that question has to be the question of what are we going to consider all inclusive when we do hire the attorney, right? Because if the attorney, if all inclusive means that this attorney can cover, a large area, then the 96 might make sense. But if the attorney can't cover a large area, then maybe it should drop down. So, but unfortunately, that's a question that we're probably going to get into in the next meeting. So I'm not sure what to do about that, but that's just my opinion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Any other member of the committee, the council has any other questions on the budget? Before I open
Okay,
up.
me again, I'm sorry to interrupt, just to be clear. So you guys are okay with paying 35,000, going to 26 to 35. And again, that's $17 an hour. It's my issue with Public Works is like, we don't have a department, we don't have equipment. So the public work, other than, fixing little things here and there and picking up the debris and the garbage around the village, can actually perform anything else. Cannot repairing, the streets or do anything else, or trim some trees in the around the parks and do anything else. So to me, I think that's I'm not okay with it.
Just about the duties of the Public Works staffer, he also does more than that. There is a cleaning, but there's also reporting that has to be done. He has to participate in the LMS quarterly meetings. He participates in the Parks Coalition meetings. He does trainings. He's also at the actually suggestion of our tree board, we want to get him arborist licensing so that he can do a lot of our tree trimming. I mean, he does it now, but we'd like to get in more. And you understand that even today we've spent almost $1,000 taking down a dead tree. That's something that if he was better trained, we could have that in-house. So there are a lot of opportunities to utilize a public works person. That we don't have a department, but until recently I was doing the public works and I'm the village manager. So we need someone to handle more substantive things when it comes to public works and to coordinate that. He's a one-person show like all of the other departments. So
And I understand, but I think it was something that should be progressively, raised. Not, and once he gets all the certifications or more experience and a lot of other areas that he can actually perform, then it should be, raised. But for now, I think that's a heavy, increase.
So I think for purposes of time, it's 8 o'clock. I think that what I'd like to hear is what are all of the council members, your positions and some of the changes that you'd like to see. I'd like to get a comment in, and then after we get the public comment in, we're going to come back to the council, and I'm going to at that point ask if anybody has a motion or recommendation to make a change, and then you see if you get your second, and we'll do a vote on that. Okay. So I think that Councilperson Erbem has laid out a few things that he'd like to see. You're laying out up 2 or 3 things that you'd like to see. Vice Mayor Nickerson has things. Let's go ahead and open up for public comment. And then I'm going to circle back to all of us and see if there's a motion to adopt a change. Keep in mind that the totality of the dollar is what we're voting on. So if it shifts departments, correct me if I'm wrong, CFO, we're still okay. If we shift dollars to another, it's totality of the dollar amount that we're voting on. So let's go ahead and, I see,
Well,
Chris, did you want to?
you are voting for appropriations on a line item basis. and within departments, but you are limited overall, I think is what you're saying, in the
Yeah.
overall budget. That's already determined by your millage rate.
By the millage rate. So if it's okay with all of you, let's open up for public comment. It's a hearing. And then once we hear come back to the council, I'll ask if there's a motion for anything for consideration, and then we'll take it from there. We're all good with that? All right, let's go ahead and open it up for public comments. Thank you. Kyle, we have first Sandra Valencia, and then we have Warner Dreher.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sandra Valencia, 8633 Northeast Miami Court. Just taking advantage of the last conversation, I am in total support with Council Pirella regarding that huge jump from 26,000 to 35,000. Even if it's just full-time, sorry, from 18,000, because it was actually that last year. Oh no, budget last year was 26,000, sorry, to 35,000 this year, I think is a huge jump. I actually last week or the week before, I asked for a couple of records, public records, and one of the public records requests I made was to have a look of this guy's public works employee. By the way, the public works director just really is just laughable, to be honest. It's just a public works employee. We don't have a department. He's not a director or anything, and we should actually change that. He's a public workers employee, or it's not even a manager. Anyways, at the end of the day, I asked for the resume, his profile and all, and I just cannot believe we're gonna pay $35,000 to this person. And please forgive me, I'm not disrespecting anybody, it's not personal, but we cannot pay $35,000 to this person, the same amount of money that we're paying our police officers. It's just not okay. In my opinion, I read the resume, I read his profile, I read a lot of the activities he does on a weekly basis. Yes, he has a ton of activities, legal activities or whatnot. He's going through certifications and training and whatnot. And I totally agree with Councilperson Pirella that making this jump of $14,000 from one year to another, even though he can make more hours, maybe it's not 4 hours, we can pay him by hour, but $35,000 that we pay to our police officers is just seriously terribly wrong managed. It will be an insult to our police officers, and we should actually care for them deeply. So that I agree with. So now I just noticed a couple of things, and I asked for a public records request regarding public affairs items, and I still see the league dinner $5,000 there as an expenditure. I asked for the payout. Yes, it was a payout, it was paid, but yet again, my question to the manager, why don't we get, I understand why the Miami Shores Gala, we actually left, we kept the money with them. I mean, we didn't actually ask for the refund of the $5,000 because that goes to charity. Okay, I'm okay with that. But I'm gonna ask you, manager, what happened with the league dinner, $5,000? Why haven't we gotten any refund if that dinner didn't happen?
I haven't.
Sandra, this is Mayor Cabillos. If I can just step in for 1 minute, for purposes of time, I agree with your question and I agree with your emails. But again, for purposes of time, can we focus on the budget that we're voting on, which is next fiscal year? The budget that you're implying to is our current year, which does not impact the next year because we've already reduced that line item to 1,500 or possibly even lower.
Right. Okay.
So again, we're voting on the incoming year.
Okay, but I will keep on asking all this public requests because I would like to see that money. I don't understand what that money is. So in regards to the line item, hold on a second. The public, no, sorry, blah, 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 blah. Going back, I'm going to my notes. The contracted accountant, we are jumping from 58,000 to 72,000. That's a huge jump, and I want to understand why. And let me explain my my question right now. I asked for public records in regards to his the CFO that we have right now, his resume, his profile, whatnot, his experience. I found out that he's not even a CPA. So I want to understand, why are we jumping from 58 to 72,000 for next year for someone that is just, I don't believe he has the credentials to actually get that to that bigger jump from one year to another. Can you please explain that to me?
I can explain that when we had a lack and we did not have CFO services because our former CFO's team moved on and we dismissed them, we had to look to find someone quickly. I reached out to the Florida League of Cities for assistance in just finding someone quickly. So Mr. Wallace was highly recommended. I called around to just get references. People all had wonderful things to say about him. To be the CFO, you don't have to be a CPA. He was very clear about that when he was introduced to the council. And we are allotting for this funding because that's what we're paying him presently, but this was always an interim relationship. I don't know what the CPA will, or the CFO will cost when we do the RFQ or RFP for this, this position. So we left it at that and hope that we may see some savings when we identify the permanent. But for now, this is what Mr. Wallace is being paid. But the intention was always to do 3 to 6 months. But we had coronavirus and now we're in budget. So we're extending it a bit, but he is not our permanent CFO, and that is what we needed for the temporary until we got through the interim and then through this process.
I appreciate the explanation. So my recommendation as a resident will be that we need to go back to the, going down to the 60s. 72,000, I think, is just too much for, I don't think that we need a CFO, to be honest. We are a small community. There's not much, this is not Miami Shores. This is, I don't know, this is not Miami-Dade. I think we can actually manage a CPA, a good CPA we can manage, or probably an accountant that is actually a little lower. I think 72,000 is just too much, in my opinion. My recommendation would be just to find something else. And I'm happy to see that we lower certain, expenditures for next year in the public affairs, especially now that we need to save money wherever we need to. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sandra. If I could please have Warner Dreyer, and then we have Margaret.
Good evening, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, good evening. We can hear you perfectly.
All right, thank you. My name is Warner Dreyer, 486 Northeast 87th Street. So just have 2 comments. It's regarding, I guess, the Public Works. So first comment is in our in our PDF file that we received, it still shows as Public Works Director, but I understand based on the conversation and the documents that you might have, it doesn't reflect that title. So that was just the one comment. And second, I'm not sure whether, if there's actually a change from part-time to full-time regarding this position, an increase of amount of duties or changes in the job description. My question is, has this been brought up to the Public Works Committee meeting for review? And I guess I agree on that new job description to bring up to council for approval on the increase in or change in the job description or changes in the job pay. So that's my question, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilperson. Sorry, thank you, Warner Dreyer. Margaret, please, next.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly. Good evening.
Okay. Hi, this is Dr. Margaret Okonkwo. Good to see everyone.
Can't see you, though.
I'm sorry.
We can't see you. We can only hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. My concern is the.
State your name and address for the record, please. My apologies.
Sorry, Margaret Okonkwo, and the address is 211 Northeast 89th Street. That's a commercial property in El Portal. And just something that I've spoken to 3 village managers starting in 2015 with Jason, who left the village for another job, David Rosamond, Christia Liu. I've spoken to the mayor, the vice mayor, for about 5 years regarding the potholes in front of my building. And I see in here under special revenue fund, sidewalk and street repairs, or under the transportation fund, that there's $70,000 that was allocated this year. It has a line through it from May 31st, 2020. I don't know if that means nothing if it has been spent. And then there's also a proposed budget of $32,000. And, my question is, when I chose to come into this village and purchase this property and renovate it from what was a absolute horribly maintained and rundown property, I put a lot of money into that property. I came in with my business for 3 years. I've chosen to move on. Another business is trying to come in there. I've had several people try to come and rent it. I've had people who want to purchase it, and every single entity has complained about the massive potholes in front of that property. Those potholes have gotten bigger and bigger in the 5 years that the village has said that they are going to repair it. And I just want to know how the village in this budget, how they're going to allocate those funds and how they're going to determine how to allocate the funds. Is it length of time of damaged streets and potholes? Because mine's been 5 years. Is it size of pothole? Because that pothole is now 12 feet by 24 feet. Depth? Because the pothole is about 5 to 8 inches. Danger to the public, people driving by, motorcycles, bicycles, kids running by. I don't know. I'm just wanting to maybe get some clarity on how this money is going to be spent and how the village intends to prioritize and allocate those funds. It's been 5 years that this village has told me, as the owner of that property, that those potholes would be fixed. Now, commercial properties are in crisis right now. I don't know if anybody, who's present today owns a commercial property. They're struggling. This country is going to see a massive collapse. And the village can either have all empty properties, that church, that property is not going to get filled anytime soon. You guys can have all empty properties sitting in your village, or you can try to work with some of the commercial owners to make sure that we can actually have those occupied. A doctor's group wants to come in there. It's very hard to have an 80-year-old woman drive up in a car and get out in a massive pothole when she goes in to see the doctor. So I just want to know how you plan on using these funds and how you're going to prioritize the funds.
Thank you, Dr. O. Any other public comments? Once, going twice. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public comments and open it up back to the council. We have heard from business owners in the community as well as residents, and the majority of you have made some recommendations that perhaps you'd like to see. So at this time, in an effort to move forward, is there a recommendation from the committee, from the council with regards to the budget before us? Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate it. I think, Madam Mayor, what could move us along fairly quickly is we do this. I think that, first of all, Councilperson Perrella should come up with an amount that he would want to see. We vote on that for the Public Works individual. Because he's saying that he doesn't believe, or he doesn't feel like he feels like that's too much. Well, I think he should come up with a dollar amount. We should vote on that. I think that I think that for, when you look at the police budget, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the police tasers, I thought it was something, Chief, I thought it was like 9,000 something, because I see it's like 11,154 allocated. I'm not sure.
9,600 per year for 5 years.
9,600 per year. Mr. CFO, is there a reason why it's 11,154?
We did not take away the money that was budgeted for equipment other than tasers. So it was added to the nominal amount that we had for the police department and equipment for the current year. And it was basically added to what Chief needed for tasers.
I was just wondering. And the last thing I would say, Madam Mayor, is this. First of all, for the Councilperson Urban, with all of the with the cuts that you want to make, you know, for the galas and things like that, my suggestion would be, and also just for the record, for the police, we do have that PBA gala, and that's there also. And we don't know if that's going to happen also, which is like $1,750. So my suggestion would be, just to move this stuff along pretty quickly, is to take everything that we're not sure that's going to happen because of COVID, the PBA gala, the Miami Shores gala, the league dinner, take everything we're not sure of and let's put it in contingencies. And if COVID-19 turns around, we can take that money out and we can allocate it, or when these events pop up. So when the league dinner pops up, if it's not around, then we can take that money and Madam Mayor.
Vice Mayor Nicholson, perfect. So do I have a motion for all of the galas that we have on there? Miami-Dade League of Cities, Miami Shores Gala, and the Police Benevolent, and the 5,000 role model, which is the 4 that we want to take those funds, put it over contingency, because that would be a motion. And we can make that motion, we can second it, we can vote on it.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I want to make a motion to put all gala event money into contingencies in the meantime, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so for clarity purposes, there's a motion made by Vice Mayor Nickerson to take the dinners that we have generally budgeted for right now. For example, you have Miami-Dade County League of Cities, you have the Miami Shores Gala, you have the Police Benevolent Association, you have the Crime Watch dinner, and you also have the 5,000 role model. So you're saying all of those we're going to take out that are presently budgeted for, and we're going to move it over to a contingency fund. We're going to add it to the contingency fund.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that motion.
Is that okay? So the Vice Mayor Nickerson has made a motion. Okay, there's the motion made by Vice Mayor Nickerson to take all of the galas and repeat them one more time. On the record, you have Crime Watch and Role Model and the Miami Shores Gala to take the money contingency fund, and the council will revisit that. Any discussion before I ask for roll call? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, may I roll call, please?
Councilman Perrella,
Yes.
Councilman Urban,
Yes.
Councilwoman Romaine,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Cabello.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, if I may, the only other thing is, oh, sorry, Madam Mayor.
No, I was gonna move on to Councilperson Perrella. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. That was the next thing I was gonna say. That's the only other thing, Madam Mayor, and I think we can move on after that.
Councilperson Perrella, do you have a motion that you want to make?
Yes, motion to adjust or to fix the salary for the public sport staffer and lower it from 35,000 to 31,200.
31,200. So Councilperson Perrella would like to make a motion to take the salary for the public works Works position from 35,000 to 31,200. Is there a second? Going once, going twice,
I'll
going
second.
third? The
I'll
motion
second the
fails
motion.
for lack of, oh, okay, second by Councilperson Urban.
Yeah.
There's a motion made by Councilperson Perrella to take the Public Works position up to 31,200, and it's been seconded by Council roll call.
Councilman Perrella,
Yes.
Councilman Urban,
Yes.
Councilwoman Roman,
No.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Cabello. The item passes 3-2.
Okay, so we've made.
I'd like to make one final motion. I'd like to make
I
a
was going to
motion.
go to you next.
Okay, sorry, go
Councilperson
ahead.
Urban. Wait, hold on, before. Okay, Councilperson Perrella, you done? Anything else? Going once, going twice? Okay, good. Councilperson Urban.
I'd like to make a motion to reduce the council discretionary fund to 5,000 in total and memberships, education, and training to 1,000.
Can I put that in one, Attorney Powell, can I put that in one motion by department? Where did he go? Is he? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can do them individually, you can do them together, but
Okay, he's made it together. So Councilperson Urban is making a recommendation to reduce the councilor discretionary fund from 10,000 to 500, and the membership, education, and training from 1,500 to 1,000. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Going once. Second by Councilperson Perrella. So there's a motion to reduce from the legislative budget, the council discretionary fund from 10,000 to 5,000, and membership, education, and training from 1,500 to 1,000. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, may I have roll call?
Did you ask for a roll call, Madam Mayor?
Yes, my apologies. Yes, roll call.
Councilman Perrella,
Yes.
Councilman Urban,
Yes.
Councilwoman Roman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Cabello.
No.
The item passes 4-1.
Okay. Any other from any of the council members? We're all good? Our hearts and mind are clear. Okay. Having said that, to the CFO right now, so we have a change where the council's made a recommendation that the Public Works employee is to be paid 31,200 as opposed to 35. So there's a difference there, and the council has also passed a 5,500. Do I need a motion to allocate those funds elsewhere? And my apologies. To the CFO or to the attorney, do I need a motion to reallocate the dollar?
Well, I would say that if you don't, it's going to all go into contingency. And I would also kind of note that when you reduce the Public Works department salaries to 31,200 from the current budget, that also will reduce things like FICA and retirement contributions. So if you'll allow me to also calculate that and put it into wherever you want to move that, there will be, because you'll have extra money coming free because you don't have to spend it on the things related to salaries. It's not going to be a lot, but I would just, if that's what you're going to do, then we need to change them all. But I'll calculate that with that understanding of the council.
And if I may, that extra money that came from Public Works came from the gas tax. So, and that could be reallocated to then repair the streets. So we will have a little extra money there for,
Well,
the repairs that we did.
yeah, correct, but it's going to come out proportionately between the general fund and that, because that distribution percentage was gleaned when, or gathered when I talked with Angel about how much time he actually spent on streets and roads. And that's what percentage of his pay, whatever that pay ultimately is getting allocated. But you're correct, Councilman Farrella, in the streets and roads funds, that will go straight into the street and road budget. Thank you for clarifying that. In the general fund, it'll go into contingency unless you direct it otherwise.
So my apologies, I got booted out here with my internet. And I don't know if you all heard me. I was asking the question to the CFO. Now that there has been that change voted on by the council, and I know that with the salary, you have to have FICA and all of that. Do I need a motion this evening from the members of the council as to where those dollars are going to be allocated? I guess that question is to the attorney or to the CFO. And if you answered it, my apologies, but I got booted out.
Well, I did. So what I said was, it's going to go into contingency unless you act otherwise.
I mean, I'm okay with that if the council is, to simplify it. Okay. Okay. And I guess my thought process would be that if we're saving money for the public works, whatever dollars it is, then it should go to public works, right?
Yeah, well, that also was discussed while you were in it.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I got put it out there. Okay. All right, perfect. Having seen that, any other recommendations from the council to the administration for us to vote on? All right, seeing none. Having said that, we have a motion on the table to adopt resolution 2020-30 that was made by Vice Mayor Nickerson and second by Councilperson Urban. Any other discussion before I call for a, do I have any raised hands? No raised hands. Councilperson Perrella, your hand's raised. Is that from before? Okay. If there is no further discussion, seeing going once, going twice, going three, Madam Clerk, may I have roll call, please, for resolution 2020-30?
Councilman Perrella,
Yes.
Councilman Urban,
Yes.
Councilwoman Roman,
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Cabello.
Yes.
The item passes 5-0.
All right, good job. Let's go to resolution 2020-31. If I can please have the attorney read into the record.
An annual assessment resolution of the Village Council of the Village of El Portal, Florida, relating to the provision of solid waste services for fiscal year 2020 through 2021, beginning October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021, establishing the rate of assessment, imposing solid waste service assessments against assessed property located within the Village of El Portal, approving the proposed assessment roll for the fiscal year 2020 through 2021, providing for an effective date.
If I could interject, I would also note this is a public hearing item, so you'll have to open it up to anyone who wants to contest their assessment, which is the same for everybody, $400.
Always. Thank you for the reminder, but always, yes, most definitely. Back to the council. Is there a motion to adopt, to consider adoption resolution 2020-31?
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution 2020-31.
All right, thank you. The motion's been made by Councilperson Urban. Is there a second? Second by?
I'll second the motion to adopt resolution 2020-31, Madam Mayor.
Second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. There's a consideration to adopt resolution 2020-31 made by Councilperson Urban, second by Vice Mayor Nickerson. Any discussion from the committee, from the council before I open it up to the public? Any questions, comments? All right. All right. These at this time, is there any member from the audience that would like to ask us a questions with regards to resolution 2020-31? Going once, going twice. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public hearing. Members of the council, any questions or comments, or is there an explanation from the CFO and from the village manager to the residents and the council before I call for a vote.
I would just
Go
note
ahead.
that it's just an annual assessment for solid waste, garbage and recycling pickup at every house. Every house pays the same, $400 per house.
Well, it's not the same for all of us. Some of us pay a little more, but okay. Anyway, having said that, any other discussion from the members of the council? Seeing none, going once, going twice. Madam Clerk, may I roll call, please?
Councilperson Perrella,
Yes.
Councilperson Urban,
Yes.
Councilperson Roman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nickerson,
Yes.
Mayor Cabello.
Yes.
The item passes 5-0.
Thank you. Well done. Good and welfare? Anybody in good and welfare would like to ask us a question or make a comment with regards to this meeting? Going once, going twice, going three? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn the final budget hearing for Tuesday, September 22nd?
I make a motion to adjourn, Madam Mayor.
Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Hudson. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Councilperson Urban. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Hearing none, our final budget hearing concludes at 8:34 p.m. Good job and thank you. Anybody need a 2-minute break before we go right into our council meeting?